thing billowing, bursting forth with the power of 10 billion butterfly sneezes.
This is Wine, Money, and Song. And if you're interested in wine and you want to learn about the best values in wine, please subscribe. Everyone thinks the wine business is this glamorous lifestyle that you go to France, you eat at great restaurants, you meet all these famous people in the wine business. And it's true. It is true. I've been able to do a lot of those things in my career in the wine business. And I've been very lucky that I've been able to work for companies who were very innovative in building the wine market in America. And part of my duties were actually to go to Europe and taste the wines from the chateaus and the estates. And while I'm there, of course, I wined and dined. I took a look at the French countryside, went to Spain, Italy, all those places famous for wine. And I did have the opportunity to eat in the best restaurants, La Tour d'Argent, Paul Bocuse, so, all those three-star restaurants, phenomenal places. And a lot of the times the company paid for that, which is even better. Some of the times I went on my own dollar, but it was well worth it and well worth the experience. So I want to give you another slant on the wine business. It's all not luxury and glamour like it's made out to be all the time. In my 30 plus years of working in the industry, I worked at 2 retail stores, one in Queens in New York City and one in the Bronx. Yes, the Bronx, I said. And then I worked for Gallo, selling California wines, and I worked for WineMo, selling international and California wines, and then I worked for Seagram's for 2 decades, and that's when I went to France a lot, and that was the real glamorous part of my career. But let me tell you a story about my first official sales call. After working in retail stores for 8 years, I got a job with Gallo Wine Distributors in New York. And they put you through training, everything like that. But I had worked 8 years in wine stores, and I knew the way it worked generally. But I went through formal sales training at Gallo, and then they said, here you go out on the street and sell, and here's a list of your customers, go. So the first customer I saw was on a Monday morning, and it was in 91st Street and Broadway in Manhattan. So I had my brand new suit, my $100 suit, and I had new shoes, I had my tie on, and I went on the subway, and I got off, and I walked up to 91st Street and Broadway, and it was like 8:15 in the morning, and he's not open yet. He opens 8:30. So I'm waiting there with my attaché, looking very collegiate at the time, and I'm waiting, and all of a sudden this gentleman walks up, and I don't know who he is. So he begins opening the gate of the store, and he looks behind me, and he goes, you a salesman? And I go, yeah. So give me 5 minutes. I have to turn the alarm off. I have to get the money set up, the cash registers. Give me 5 minutes. So I give him 5 minutes. I come in, and he says to me, sit down. He says, I'm Marty Heimowitz. Who are you? And I says, I'm Tom Bain. He goes, who do you work for? And I says, I work for Gallo Wine Distributors. So he bends down, takes his gun out of his holster, and he puts it on the table. He sits down. He says, sit down. And he says to me, why the F should I buy wine from you? Who are you? Just because you have $100 and $150 suit on, and you got your tie and your why should I do business with you? So I'm thinking, oh my God, this is my first sales stop. Am I going to face this all day long? Is this what this is going to be like? Why am I here? So I said, well, I worked in 2 stores, and I have a pretty good background in wine, and I really have studied wine, and this is my next step. So he says, yeah, but tell me why I should do business. Who do you know? And I go, well, I don't know. I know the people who used to come in. So he says to me, in Gallo, who do you know? So I said, well, I know Joe Zinn. I know Sally Galenti. So he stops me. And he's being really rough on me. He says, you know Sally Galenti? I says, yeah, I do. He goes, what do you think about Sally Galenti? And I says, well, Sally helped me get the job. I wouldn't be here in front of you if it wasn't for Sally Galenti. I go, he's a nice guy, and I never really did anything to really help him that much, but I asked him for a favor once, and he followed up, and it took me a year to get the job. He made the call. I got a call a week. I owe him. So what the owner, Marty, said to me was, Sally Galenti is my uncle. He got this store for me. He goes, sit down. We're going to get along great. And from that day on, I serviced that guy with 3 other companies. And I did a ton of business with him. And you couldn't have any closer relationship than you could have with a customer than that we just trusted each other. And that was my first sales stop. And boy, did I learn from that. And as I said before, when I worked retail, I had worked in Queens, New York, and there was a gentleman who tried to buy the store in Queens, and part of the reason why he wanted to buy it is he was impressed with me. I was managing it, and he felt that having me in his store would help, and he almost bought the store, but it fell through at the end, so I figured, that's it, I'll see you sometime, who knows when. And about 2 months later, he came back into the store in Queens, and he said, listen, I found a store in the Bronx, and I think I'm going to buy it. I want you to take a look at it. Could you do me a favor? Because I know you really understand about retail wine business. So that was, he was stroking me a little bit. And at that age, I was in my 20s. Mid-20s, early 20s, and I needed to be stroked, and you can get whatever you want from me if you just stroke me that way. So I said, all right, I'll go up, even though I don't want to go to the Bronx. But he says, no, I want you to look at the store and give me an opinion whether I should do it or not. So we go up, and we're traveling, and we got stuck in traffic, and I'd never seen anyone get so mad. He just couldn't stand being stuck in traffic. He's cursing in Italian, oh yeah, pangul, this and that. And I says, oh my God, I don't want to see him losing his temper. So we get up to the store, and I go into the store, and the store was on Gun Hill Road and Jerome Avenue. And it was right near Montefiore Hospital, where there were thousands and thousands of professional people working there, technicians, doctors. And that's why he wanted to buy the store. He figured that would be a great source of revenue for him, that he could sell wine to those professionals. So I go into the store, and I couldn't believe it. It was like going back 50 years in a time capsule. There was wooden floor with sawdust on it, and old wooden shelves, and there was basically no wine on the shelves. It was mostly liquor, and it was just decrepit, the store. So I said, ugh. I go, you have to tear this place apart. So he finally bought the store, and he charmed me. So I'm working there, and I had said to him, I'll double your wine sales in 6 months. And he paid me twice what I was getting in Queens. So he kind of lured me there. So it was tough working up there because it was a lower middle income area. It wasn't the greatest, but you had that hospital. And we were really doing phenomenal business with the hospital. We fixed up the place. But I used to go out on Friday nights, and I'd stay out to 3 o'clock in the morning. And Saturday morning, I had to work and open up the place at 8 o'clock. Now, you want to talk about glamour. I got home after hanging out with my friends at 3 in the morning, had 3.5 hours sleep, get in the car, half comatose, go up to the store in the Bronx, and there's this little Puerto Rican guy waiting for his half pint of rum. And I says, I'm half in the bag still. So I say, hey, wait, I got to open up the store, let me shut the whole thing. So it's freezing in the store. It's freezing. And I'm groggy. I need a cup of tea. So I open up the gate. I let the guy in. I give him his half pint of rum. And I'm standing there with my arms on the counter. And all of a sudden, the guy is looking at me, trying to get the money. And all of a sudden, he sneezes. And a loogie, the biggest loogie I ever see in my life, all over my arm. And I'm half in the bag still. And I'm looking at it. And I go, ah! And I throw the guy out of the street. I lock the door. And I go in the back. And there's no hot water. So I'm there running it under cold water, freezing, and I'm trying to scrub it, and my skin is almost coming off. Now, that's the glamour of the wine business. And it took me an hour. I had to heat up some hot water. I had to put the cold water because it wasn't hot, and heat it up in a pan, and I finally, and that was disgusting. And that's what you face. That is part of the wine business. That's part of the dark side of the wine business. And as I said, I would double wine sales there in 6 months. I tripled the wine sales. So those are two stories about the real world in the wine business. And I have a few others that are even more adventurous and more bizarre. And along the way, hopefully you'll find them more real life than the glamour that visiting all these fancy estates and drinking all these great wines and meeting all these famous people. It's still the wine business and it's the real world, and you meet real people and things happen. Or as they say, shit happens. It happens in the wine business too. And hopefully you find it interesting.